Welcome to Hungarians in the Kitchen. I'm Monika, and this is my mom, Marta. Today we are going to make one of my favorite meals growing up called goulash. So we start off with, what, onions,
the
meat?
Onion, yeah.
Okay.
First we cut the onion.
Nice size onion.
Yes, small piece.
And then what do we do once we have this cut up into finely diced pieces?
We put it in the pan, a smaller pan, because this is going to be separated from the veggies.
Is there oil already in the pan?
Yes, well,
And we're
we use
using
the virgin
olive oil?
olive oil.
And then we saute it?
We saute this, and then we cut the meat, small little squares, and we put it there, paprika, and then the meat.
Okay. We've got one side, and I'm not crying thus far.
This is something that the shepherds were doing at night when they wanted to have a good
Meal after a long day.
dinner. Yeah, and that's why they whatever vegetable they find on the field, they put it there. Sometimes they did it with lamb, sometimes with beef, but I think pork is the one mostly. This is the way how we did it in my mother kitchen, and this is in like Transylvania style. You know, so.
And again, Transylvania is a territory, kind of like the Appalachian Mountains are in the United States. It's a mountainous region that goes north and south. Well, most mountainous regions go north and south.
It's middle of Romania.
Yeah. But it used to belong to Hungary. So, the part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire before it belonged to Romania. All right, so we have our one onion nicely diced up, and we're going to go ahead and put it into a cooking pot. And I'm probably going to put in about a tablespoon or so.
Yeah.
Is that good? Okay. And
then we saute.
So we have our pork tenderloin that we purchased from a local farm. And one of the things in preparing pork tenderloin is you want to get it ready before you cut it up. There's a thin membrane, and some of it is fat, but this thin membrane, you can get kind of underneath it and kind of almost tear it off. So if you haven't really worked with tenderloin before, this is something that it's just a little kind of cleaning tool.
But again, this is the very good part of the pork that you use for this dish, because
it gives it flavor.
And the good flavor, yes.
So now what we want to do, you had said that the important thing is that we cut it into small pieces.
Small squares.
Okay, so
First,
why don't you do it?
First you cut it long like this. Okay, you cut.
Into strips.
Yes. And then you cut like this.
So they look like they're about 1/4 to 1/2 inch squares, or not quite squares.
Well, you cut like this.
Okay. Okay, so what we've done now is we are using a 3-quart pot, and we've sauteed the onions till they're nice golden and soft. And we're going to go and add about a tablespoon of wonderful Hungarian paprika. And we're going to stir real quick. We don't want it to burn. And this is a lovely flavor that is in most Hungarian recipes that I know. And we'll go ahead and add in our pork tenderloin that we nicely cut up. And you just want to get all of that mixed in really well before you add your water in. It's to really bring out that flavor of the paprika. I'm going to turn this down a little bit so the paprika doesn't burn. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and just add a little bit initially. So we're going to add some more water, and we're just going to add enough to kind of cover most of the meat. A little more. Okay. And we're going to give that a nice stir again. Bring the heat up to medium. Okay. That's plenty of water to allow that to cook. And then we'll add our salt. I'm going to go ahead and do about a half teaspoon of salt. A few shakes of fresh pepper. And about 1/8 of a teaspoon of caraway seeds. And we'll cook that on medium, maybe medium-high.
A little bit more water, just a little bit.
Okay, looks like more water because there's some of the meat is still there.
And now we prepare the vegetables.
Okay. All right, and for a richer flavor, we put in...
For the meat.
Yeah, for the meat, we are going to put in a tomato, really small, finely chopped pieces, and a pepper. So once we've got these finely diced, we add it in. The reason why it's a good idea to finely dice it is that, you know, you really don't want to necessarily take a bite out of these vegetables. It's more meant to be used for flavoring. So essentially it'll somewhat, you know, kind of disintegrate and just become part of the sauce of the stew. You can see it's now nicely boiling away. And some of the meat is beginning to cook. The thing about pork tenderloin is that even though, you know, one can look at this and say, oh, well, that's cooked, it really isn't. You want it to cook for a bit of time, and we'll let you know what that is once we're done, so that it's nice and soft and very tender. I'll cover that back up. So now we're to the portion where we're going to essentially prepare our vegetables, and we prepare those in a separate pot. We're going to be using an 8-quart soup pot, and we'll tell you how it goes. We're going to use potatoes, and really you can use any kind of potato, but these are the ones that we chose. 3 parsnips, and it looks like, and they're really good sized parsnips. So if you get smaller ones, you might want to use some more. And then we have 6 nice sized carrots here. And we're going to peel all those and cut them up really nicely and cook them. So one question I had about goulash is, when do people make this? What part of the year?
This is something that you can do all year round. I mean, that is not something that
like cabbage.
You do it only winter or summer. This is something that you can do all year round. Like in this little round things.
So they're not too big. So what other vegetables can you use?
Oh, you can use whatever you like. You can use celery if you want. Also, that would give an extra good flavor.
What about things like leek, or I'm thinking of things I put in chicken soup.
I never used that, so I really don't know.
But I would think
I don't think it would spoil it, because But these are the basics, what usually...
Yeah, so if someone really likes leek or mushrooms, then I would say add it in, right? Mushrooms are a good thing.
Yes.
Really healthy for you. So really, this doesn't take long, especially, with a helper in the kitchen. It's always nice to cook with someone, not be doing it all by yourself.
I like the parsnip. This is such a good extra flavor give for any kind of soup. I just love it.
How about something like celeriac? Could you put something like that, or is that too? Because that's a kind of strong flavor, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be.
It would be overpowering.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But in Hungary, in the market, you can find parsley root, which looks like the parsnips, but it kind of different a little bit. The flavor is different.
What about something like a turnip? Did you put a turnip in? No.
Turnips belong to the soup, basically, vegetables. I don't think turnips would.
This is more of a stew.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I think makes this a little bit different than just a regular stew is that at the end we add what you call dumplings.
Yes.
And
yes.
I actually don't really know the English name for it.
That is dumpling. That's an English name. In Hungarian it's different.
I guess I always think of dumplings as filled with something. Like at a Chinese restaurant, they fill it with pork or...
Yeah, because there is no other name in English for nokedli in Hungarian, nokedli.
There we go, some Hungarian words.
But without the nokedli, it's not really a good goulash.
So that is a secret. Now we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is we're going to make ours gluten-free. It will have egg in it. But I'm really excited about this recipe because I think it'll work for those who are sensitive to gluten. Normally you would just use white flour, egg, and water. And
they do it like this.
oh, those are really small pieces.
Well, not too small, but like this.
So this is going to cook really fast.
It will.
So is this a recipe that somebody would make on the weekday, or is this really a weekend recipe?
Weekday, weekend, doesn't matter. Depend your time. My mother, because she had time, she made that on weekdays also.
I guess you could make it like really the night before even, and then it's better even the next day.
Or you can just prepare the veggies.
To cut them up.
Cut them off. You can prepare the meat a night before, and when you come home from work, you just put the veggies in the pot because the meat is ready. So, and the veggie doesn't take a very long time to cook. Here, these are larger. You were thinking that those are too small.
I was.
That's what you said, no? And these are very small.
Well, I was just making an observation. I think they're fine.
You have small children, so you have to think about them.
True. With small mouths.
Especially Elise. She's a little girl. She gets scared when she sees a big, huge potato in her plate. How I'm going to eat that.
So we went ahead and just tasted one of the pieces of pork tenderloin and discovered that there was insufficient salt. So we're going to go ahead and add another half teaspoon, bringing it up to a full teaspoon. And same thing with the caraway. I'm going to add another 1/8 of a teaspoon, bringing it up to a 1/4 teaspoon. And the tenderloin is still not, as my mom said, not even halfway cooked yet. So this has been about 30 minutes now, and we'll probably check it in another 15 minutes. And we have it on medium-low where it's boiling, because you really do want it to cook. You don't want it to just simmer. So we have all our wonderful vegetables chopped up. And we're adding it into an 8-quart pot. There's no water or oil in there. A quart, just 4 cups. Another quart. And that's 2.5 quarts. And we probably need
A little bit more.
Okay, let's do another 2 cups, which will be 3 quarts.
Good. Salt.
Even though we have salt in the other one, we need salt again in this.
Yes, for the veggies.
Okay, so we'll do 1/2 a teaspoon. That's a full teaspoon.
Okay. And then you put caraway. That much.
We'll use 1/2 a teaspoon.
Yes.
Caraway seeds. And then we've got pepper.
No.
Okay, no pepper. Turn it on.
Yes.
Medium.
And let it cook.
Covered.
Covered. Yes.
Maybe a 1/2 hour.
We're gonna taste. Let's
Okay.
see.
So it's been about a 1/2 hour, and we tested the vegetables, and they're nice and soft, but it's not salty enough. So we're going to go ahead and add another 1/2 teaspoon. And we also noticed that there weren't enough caraway seeds before, so we ended up actually adding another 1/2 teaspoon, making it an entire teaspoon of caraway seeds. So now that these are done, we'll do is take our pork tenderloin that's been cooking and it's nice and tender, and we're going to add the entire thing in. Look at all that flavor. This is why we needed to use an 8-quart pot. As you can see, it's now full. And then we'll let this just cook for another 15 minutes or so together. And while we wait for that, we're going to go ahead and make the noodles, which is an important part of this recipe. So now we're ready to make our gluten-free Hungarian noodles. And what I have here is brown rice flour. I have something called sorghum flour. I have arrowroot flour. You can also use tapioca starch. I have almond flour. And I have something called psyllium husk. And I have ground chia seeds, which I ground myself in an electric coffee grinder. And what I did, we just tested this before, is I just took a rounded tablespoon, an actual tablespoon, as opposed to a measuring tablespoon. So it's not really an exact science, but it worked. So I'm just going to repeat that. And then with the almond flour, it was about half.
You need more than that.
Okay, so I'll repeat that again. And
Yes.
the psyllium husk was about 1/3. And we'll also add some salt. So, are we going to double this, or are we going to
Yeah.
triple it?
Yeah,
Okay,
double it.
so let me do that again.
Yeah.
And then we go ahead and mix that together a little bit.
Unless you don't have to make it gluten-free, and then you make it regular flour.
Right. So we'll add in 1 egg. Nice farm egg. And then, I didn't add the salt last time.
Yeah, just sprinkle.
Sprinkle salt.
Yeah. No. No, more.
All right, this is not enough.
No, let me put it here. Yeah.
Oh dear. So that's probably 1/4 of a teaspoon or so, maybe half. And then we begin mixing. Now we're going to measure the water in here so that we can tell you exactly how much we're using, instead of just saying, oh, some, until you get the right consistency. So first we add 1/2 cup. Hopefully that wasn't too much.
It was.
Oh dear. So we're just going to add a little bit more flour. I'm choosing brown rice. And we'll see how that works. So maybe start off with 1/4 cup of water instead of 1/2 cup like I did.
Maybe sorghum.
And then
That's a thick.
still a little too runny for my mom. So use a little sorghum. Again, if you don't need to use gluten-free flour, then just use your white enriched flour and about 1/4 cup of water and an egg. And you can see how
it's gonna get thicker because of the psyllium.
will it get thicker?
Because of the psyllium.
We can put some more psyllium. So this is still a little bit too
Yeah, that's too much.
too runny,
soft.
too
soft.
That was chia seed and psyllium husk, and about, let's say, maybe a teaspoon of each. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to thicken up. And I think I'll add a little bit of arrowroot because that's also a thickener. So it looks like we are doing about 2 tablespoons of each. Is that better?
If it thickens a little bit, then it's gonna be good.
Okay.
Yeah, we wait a few minutes to thicken.
So it's still too runny, so now I'm going to add about a tablespoon of almond flour. And that should dry it out a little bit.
I think now it's good.
Okay. So it's really more of a paste.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can kind of see it, like you wanted to, what is that, like a glob, as opposed to a runny feeling, right? Is that good?
Yes.
Okay,
The
I think we
consistency
have
is
it.
good now. Yes.
And all this time, our stew is cooking in the background. Now we're ready to put in our noodles. And what we'll do is take a small amount and we gently put it into the soup. And you want to lower your spoon into the soup, the stew, because that way it'll come off very nicely. And what it does initially is it falls to the bottom. And once it's cooked, it'll rise to the top. And you don't want to make them too big because they do grow in size. And we'll let these cook for about 10 or so minutes. And then we want to taste them. Make sure that they're completely cooked on the inside and not gummy.
I think you have enough.
Oh, so we don't have to use all of it.
I don't think so, because then it's gonna just take up
soak up all the...
water. Yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, the noodles are beginning to rise up, and it's only really been about 3 or 4 minutes. But we did increase the heat to make sure that it was coming to a boiling point and they were cooking. So we've gone ahead and served ourselves, and one of the things I've noticed that I really love is when I take a spoonful, I have lots of little, and this is a small teaspoon too, I've got potato, I've got pepper, I've got meat, and that's because we cut everything really nice and small. And I mean, taste it. Wow.
The caraway seed.
That's really what makes this goulash
Special. Yes.
really wonderful. The one thing that my mom noticed is that, and you saw how large the noodles were, she said that they are much too large. So next time I think I'll use a teaspoon to measure them out. And again, they took about 10 minutes to cook, but if you are using just, your traditional white flour, it's going to take about 5 minutes. But
until they come up on the top.
Until they come up, and just check it, because they did come on top, but they were still a little bit gummy and still needed to cook a little bit. Yeah, so that would be the only thing. So thanks for joining us. We hope that you make this wonderful dish for your family.